So the project I worked on was to understand the conditions that people were being recruited into as they started independent research groups. And in the UK, there are so many different tracks through which you can become an independent academic researcher. A lectureship with teaching responsibilities, research fellowships, which are funded by charities or UKRI. Is an innate variability in the pathways. And through talking to my peer group, talking to each other, we realised that rather than just the variability you might expect, that actually there was a huge discrepancy in the way different people had been recruited and were supported at their various institutions. And through just informal conversation, a list of questions seemed to be developing itself. So, what do you get paid? Do you have an annual appraisal? Really simple things that you would in most cases assume everybody does have. How many hours teaching do you do? How big is your lab? How much money did you bring in? How many grants have you applied for? And in the end, it was quite a serious questionnaire of about 80 questions. So then we thought nobody would reply because it's far too long and nobody has 20 minutes to spend on this. But actually, it was a topic that everybody wanted to reply to. So we sent it out through our networks, email, word of mouth, use social networking, Twitter. And actually, in the end, we got about 400 people, just under 400 people replying to this questionnaire and spending 20 minutes of their time giving all of these detailed stats on how they were recruited and how they've been supported in the first 5 years of their research position. And we had open comments on every single question. And so people spent a lot of time telling us exactly what their problems were and exactly what was going well. But in most cases, the comments were what has not gone so well. And once we had a data set that was much, much bigger than we expected, I think my expectations at the beginning were genuinely that we could write some kind of blog post, an overview of some people struggle with this. But we had this huge data set that actually we then needed to go and recruit a social scientist in order to understand statistically what that data meant. And once we'd done that, we were finding so many interesting things, so many things that needed to be said, that we decided we should publish it. And since no one had recruited us to do this, nobody had asked us to do it, this was not in collaboration with any organisation, this was across the UK, so my collaborators were people I knew or knew of, working at different universities. This wasn't UCL based even, it was bigger than that. So we decided to write it ourselves with no input from anyone else and put it on a preprint server, bioarchive, which has a section for research culture, and we just put it up there, typos and all, because we were just fed up of the thing. And it went absolutely crazy. We put it up, we tweeted the link, and it just went everywhere. Everyone was sharing it. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Everybody was checking how they related to those statistics. Postdocs were going, I didn't know that. And it just went mad. So then eLife approached us. They have a reputation for wanting to improve research culture. The Wellcome Trust heavily involved with that too. And so then it got peer reviewed and is now actually a published paper. And I think it needed that peer review to give it that stamp of approval. But now it's a data set that everybody is measuring themselves against. Institutions can measure against how are they recruiting their fellows at the right level. Lecturers can see if their teaching load is too high. We found some interesting and disappointing gender differences in our data set, which I naively did not expect. The gender pay gap, as you hear it across universities, I always thought that's obvious because we have an imbalance in our high-level professorships, things like that. We all know that there's fewer female professors, and that over time our generation will move on up through the ranks, and that will fix itself. But we were seeing junior people, my level, just starting their labs, only have been there for a few years, and there were already these gender differences in pay, in administrative load, in grants brought in, more grants being applied for, and everything was just slightly tipped in the favour of males who were starting their labs, and that just compounds over time. And if we know those things exist, if the data exists to prove the things that we knew anecdotally, and now that it does, now we can have conversations with the deans of the faculty, we can have conversations with the funders. And actually, everybody has been really, really well engaged in this. We've had lots of different funders come to us with the data and say, what can we do to fix this difference in starting salary? And I think you can either think about doing departmental policy to say everybody in this job starts at that salary. There is no negotiation, perhaps. That's not my decision, but it's something we can say there's a problem. And funders can now go back, look through their applications more carefully and see, is there a few £1,000s there on that starting salary that didn't look like any difference, but actually is the difference of a grade boundary in that institution? Or they can just advise people, their fellows who are applying, talk to your department, is this right? Is this what other people have experienced? So it's small steps, but the first step is increasing awareness. And everybody wants people to be successful. You don't recruit a new research group, you don't fund a new research group with the expectation that in 5 years' time they're not going to have made it. Everybody wants to give everybody the best opportunity to succeed. Maybe not everybody will, but if you don't have the same starting point, if you're not given the same resources, if you've got your hands tied with too much administrative load, then you will fail. So we're just trying to even those imbalances out, and hopefully the next generation of postdoctoral researchers applying will now also know what to ask for, what's normal, and where they should fit, and just negotiate a bit better.